Ladies, gentlemen, and Horadrim of all ages, with Season 9 now out for just under a week, a Tier 150 pit has been completed. How has this been done? Well, it's a really nasty bug that allows Sorcerer to build up to having literally infinite damage numbers. So, before you get your hopes up, this is likely to be hotfixed and patched probably within the next day, if it has not already been hotfixed by the time this video goes out, honestly, because I can see it happening extremely quickly. That said, as usual, each season we like to check in and look at the top pit clears for each class, talk about how strong they are looking in comparison to each other, and then as a byproduct of that, a little bit about the builds they are using to do it, mostly just as a way to explain why they are doing how they are in Season 9. In last place for pit tiers then we've got the Rogue, whose highest reported clear is a Tier 102. Every clear above Tier 100 for this class is using the Death Trap Rogue build. The main things changing this build from last season are that Overpower has now been nerfed enough that the Banished Lord's Talisman isn't worth building around in this setup, and then the seasonal powers, the horadric spells, the Arcana, and Jewels are really solid for this too. Generally using Tranquil Stone for permanent unstoppable, Potent Alloy for free knockdowns, as Rogue has the Malice passive, which grants bonus damage against knocked down enemies, and then the Bloody Charm combined with Cosmic Anomaly as the catalyst lets you cause an explosion that executes low health enemies, but also increases your own attack speed when you trigger this effect. And attack speed is a really big deal for this build, which is why it's really important that you can also get a bunch more attack speed with the Myriad Stone Horadric Jewel, which gives you attack speed after triggering your catalyst if it is tied to your ultimate skill. And this is an ultimate spam build, so it just makes sense. That said, the main thing that makes this function as a base, regardless of the seasonal stuff, is the combination of the Scoundrel's Leathers unique, which makes your traps also count as core skills, the Beastfall Boots, which makes your next core skill, cast after an ultimate skill, consume all of your energy to deal increased damage, the Preparation class specialization option, which reduces your ultimate's cooldown by 5 seconds for every 75 energy that you spend, and this creates a sort of infinite loop where you build the rest of your synergies to lower Death Trap cooldown and make it sustainable to just literally press Death Trap over and over and over and over 90% of the time. That said, a Tier 102 pit is a good chunk down from the highest pit tier among all the classes. Overall, at least outside of the really bugged outlier though, the classes are closer in balance this season than they usually are a week in, just not by a huge margin. Next up then we have the Barbarian, and their highest pit tier clear so far this season is a 104, just a couple of tiers higher than Rogue. The build dominating for them right now, at least as far as pits is concerned, is actually a basic skill build, which is something the developers were trying to push people more towards, so it is good to see it's at least worked for this one class. And this is the Lunging Strike Barbarian build, which is a fun skill to have this end up being built around, and is now actually an option to build for as a basic skill for Barbarian because of their new unique they gained this season, the Hooves of the Mountain God. This unique makes it so when you cast a basic skill at maximum resource, your resource starts to drain, and during that time your basic skills deal up to double damage, as well as having a cleave effect on them so they can hit multiple enemies. That cleave effect is what makes this truly viable now, especially as Barbarian can build enough resource generation to just keep the effect up pretty much permanently when in combat. You then also grab the Paingorger's Gauntlets as a classic basic skill synergy to spread some damage around, especially for the just up to 10 basic skill bonus ranks on it too, if you get a greater affix and full masterworking procs. The Shard of Varathiel sword to boost basic skills at the cost of some resource, and you're solving resource is a problem anyway, so this is just a bonus. As well, Ramladi's Magnum Opus as a unique sword as well, which also boosts skill damage but drains fury per second. And again, you are building out the negatives of fury generation, so you can just get the positives from these effects. Then there's also the Rage of Harrogath unique chest piece to let you reduce all of your cooldowns a ridiculous amount due to Lunging Strike, also applying bleed. Then pretty much everything else is just built for general damage increases, and specifically for resource management as the main engine that supports the build. Moving on to 4th place right now then, we have a pit tier clear of 109 from Necromancer. This, I would say, is the closest balance of multiple builds that we've had from the classes we've talked about so far at least. The current top one for the class is the typical Shadow Bloodwave build that has been seriously dominating the class since the Kasimi's Legacy unique pants were added to the game a while back. This build focuses around the Bloodwave ultimate, using the aspect of Ultimate Shadow to turn Bloodwave into a darkness skill and make it leave behind Desecrated Ground, which is a damage over time effect left on the floor that can add that up to do some really nasty damage if you cause a lot of waves and a lot of sort of aftershock waves, which you can do through aspects too. Not to mention there is tempering and other boosts that you can give to desecrated ground in the first place, and this is just really strong in general. That said, Necromancer's second highest pit tier clearing build is only one tier down from this at 108, which is actually the Blight build, focused around Blight as a skill, the Ebon Piercer unique, which alters how Blight works and makes it fire some bonus projectiles, as well as just scaling the hell out of Blight through things like the Blood Moon breaches that give you a ton of crit chance and a massive critical damage multiplier on top of that too. Up in third place today then, we've got the Druid, whose top clear in the pit right now is a tier 111. This is using a new build, which is definitely a nice thing to see, meaning so far 2 out of the 4 classes we've talked about so far have top pit clears based around something new that was added this season, with this one being around the new unique weapon, the Rotting Lightbringer. This makes Pulverize create a puddle of poison that will always overpower, as well as dealing a big chunk of damage as poison over 7 seconds. As well, if you Pulverize in the puddle, it will then do a chunk of the puddle's total damage in an area around you as an AoE. This has basically revitalized the strength of pulverized builds, and now you essentially just build around Grisly Rage, a bit into the defensive stuff, and then you just absolutely pulverize everything, literally. This combines with the Rabid Bear aspect to make all direct damage you do during Grisly Rage count as poison damage, as well as making you spread rabies passively, and then this build is just capped off by being able to apply vulnerable damage through the horadric spellcraft system, as usually that is something that pulverized builds can struggle with unless you do things like lucky hit vulnerable affixes on gloves or rings. Moving on to second place right now, then we have the Spiritborn, whose top pit clear is currently a tier 117. Spiritborn is an interesting one to talk about right now because there are actually 2 builds technically completing a tier 117 pit run, but realistically it's sort of the same exact build with one sort of small but also key difference. The damage engine of both of these setups is all based around the new unique for the class this season, so a third class whose new unique is kicking butt, but this one, Balazan's Maxolotl, makes all attacks that you do to close enemies apply your Thorn stat as poison damage, and the fun thing is that this isn't even where the real damage of the build comes from, it just enables something else, because the damage comes from a common culprit for Spiritborn, specifically the thing that made them absolutely busted in their first season as well, which is the Jaguar Primary Spirit Hall effect, which is every 15 hits against an enemy, repeat a portion of the damage done to them within the last half of a second. So the faster you can do 15 hits, the faster this will trigger, the faster it will build up, the more damage it will do, and the nastier it gets, especially as it has a ton of double dipping issues where an effect will apply to the initial damage calculation, like Viscous Shield, which gives you increased damage based on the amount of your health is barrier, so it will apply to the damage that you do, that will track the damage that you've done and include that amount of damage in your Jaguar Primary Spirit Hall proc, but then when the proc actually happens itself, it will also count the Viscous Shield bonus again. That's what a double dip is in this scenario. This build then is all about hitting fast and hard, and these new unique pants basically add an extra hit to every attack you do against a close enemy, which is clearly very strong for making this happen. It triggers the effect way faster than you otherwise could, as well as giving you another method to scale your offense through thorns. All that said, the pit pushing versions drop the thorn scaling a little bit of Razorplate for the benefits of the Shroud of False Death mythic unique instead. And then the sort of competition going on at the top is whether the best core skill to use with this is Rake, which seems to be bugged in counting as hitting twice sometimes right now, or Quill Volley, which is working as intended and is just very strong as it always has been. These 2 versions of the build have been very back and forth on which one is the highest pit tier clear, but right now both of them are sitting at a 117, with the Rake variant having a very slightly faster clear time. Then finally we have our first place entry, which right now is the Sorcerer. It is worth mentioning once again that this is entirely based around a really hefty bug going on right now between a seasonal power and some Sorcerer effects. So I should mention that the top pit clear being done without using this bug is a tier 111, with a very slightly slower clear than Druid's 111. This means when the bug is inevitably fixed, they will likely be on par with Druid's power, which would put our full range of current maxed pit tier clears between 102 and 117. So all of them within 15 tiers of each other, which is actually not bad at all. That said, the bug exists, and with it there is evidence of sorcerers completing a tier 150, so let's talk about everything that's going on, starting off with the actual build before we get to the bug. The main build then that is really kicking off for this class is based around their new unique that makes Hydras be a core skill. It locks them to 3 heads, but you get a big damage increase for each bonus head that it would have had, and it makes them ludicrously powerful as well, especially as you can play play around it with the actual Ring of Starless Skies, the mythic unique, and because the Hydras themselves just sort of do the damage for you, this leaves you free to use all of your other skills, either defensively or just for maximizing the output of the Hydras. That said, we do need to talk about the bug specifically, which is happening through a mix of the enlightenment key passive, which makes you build up stacks until you reach 100, then gives you a massive boost for a short duration afterwards, including making your damage with fire, cold, and lightning match your highest elemental damage bonus. You pair this with the aspect of elements, which gives you a rotating damage buff to different sets of elements, and the smoldering ember infusion that makes your fire damage bonus stat match whatever your highest element damage bonus stat is. Then if you correctly time it so you hit enlightenment during the cold, poison, shadow buff, when it swaps over to the fire, lightning, and physical buff, it creates a sort of feedback loop between the enlightenment key passive and the smoldering ember infusion that gives you a significant boost to your fire damage specifically. But because of the way the infusion works, this damage then sticks. It does not disappear when enlightenment ends or when the aspect of element swaps over again. And then if you do this same interaction again, which you can loop fairly easily, the damage will increase again. It actually applies the same bonus another time, and then it sticks, so you can keep doing it, and the increase will just become more and more every loop. When you do this over and over, you get an infinite feedback loop of damage increasing to the point where you get the massive negative damage, which just clearly shows that you're breaking the game. All in all, I don't expect this to last literally hours from when I'm making this video. It is totally broken, but while it is here, Sorcerer is undeniably at the top of the power list among classes. That just about does it for today then, everyone. A full ranking of the classes based on how they are currently doing just under a week into Season 9 for Diablo 4. There is one massive bug allowing tier 150 pick completions, but outside of that, the classes aren't too crazy far apart from each other in power once that bug gets squashed. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how strong each of the classes is right now and in what way, and maybe it will even give you some inspirations for what to do with your own character. As always, if you want to know more about these builds, that's why we put the player that the run is from in each section, so go and check them out to get more juicy details. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.